My name is Megan, and I'm 30 years old. I've been married to Kevin for 4 years. We wanted children and started trying immediately after getting married. But we're not blessed with any. Tests showed there was no issue with me, but Kevin resisted getting tested. So that ended our attempts to conceive. I sometimes thought that if he had just gotten tested and treated. But children aren't everything, and I thought it could be nice to just live the two of us. So I never pressured him into getting tested. I work as an architect at a construction company. My salary is fairly good, and I enjoyed my job and felt fulfilled. So I thought a child-free life might be okay. Kevin works as a civil servant, his salary is less than mine but stable. And we were content with our life, able to enjoy our hobbies. Eat delicious food, and occasionally travel. Big sis. The sweet, pleading voice calling at the front of the house is my sister, Sarah. Not again. She's the only one who would come over this early on a weekday morning. I sighed as I walked to the entrance. Please don't come over so early in the morning. Sorry, something came up. Can you take care of Alyssa? Again? Didn't I just watch her the day before yesterday? Please, just watch her for me. Sarah, who is 3 years younger, had Alyssa 4 years ago. It was a shotgun wedding, but they split up after about 6 months. And now she's a single mother. Lately, she's been dropping off her child whenever she has something to do. I had been accepting because raising a child alone must be hard. But it's gradually escalated, and now she asks several times a week. It suddenly came up, what can I do? It's a weekday and I have work too. You work from home, right? Just let her sleep next to you, that's all I'm asking. While pleading, she assumed I would agree. And had already started placing the child's things in the entrance. Unable to refuse, I sighed and took in my niece. Thank you. I'll come to pick her up in the evening. What? Sarah happily left, dressed up and wearing a short skirt. What could her urgent business be? Her high heels clicked away as I watched her leave with mixed feelings. My niece, almost 4, is a quiet and easy child. She does cry, but her charming smile makes it not a burden to take care of her. We had thought we couldn't have children and had accepted that. But children are indeed adorable. Holding my niece, I thought about how small and lovely she was. It's sad for her to be left by her mother so often. I had warned Sarah that frequent babysitting wasn't good. But taking care of my niece was a joy nonetheless. Sarah picked her up late at night, without even a word of apology. And took her daughter away briskly. Kevin returned home right after that. So, my sister left her kid again. Is that so? I told Kevin about today, but he just nodded indifferently. Is that all you have to say? She's a single mother, it must be tough, right? Just help her out. I want to help, but let her have a break sometimes. You work from home anyway, right? That anyway. I knew he wasn't happy about my job. My higher income also hurt his pride. Yeah, you're right. I'm going to take a bath. Kevin ended the conversation and left the living room. I heard a buzz and looked over to see his smartphone vibrating on the table. He usually keeps it with him at all times. Puzzled, I glanced at the screen and saw the name Sarah. What? Sarah? Wait, what does this mean? I forgot my phone. At that moment, Kevin hurried back into the living room, grabbed his phone, and headed straight for the bath again. I acted as if nothing had happened, wanting to believe it was my imagination. But the message under Sarah read, I want to see you now. Was my sister sending messages to my husband? Is my husband cheating? I kept turning it over in my mind but couldn't come to a conclusion. Since that day, I hadn't had another chance to look at his phone. I want a snack. Ah, sorry. Distracted, I was suddenly asked for a hug by my niece. I picked her up with a bright smile. If Sarah is cheating with my husband, she's neglecting her child to engage in infidelity. How could she do such a thing to such a cute child? If my suspicions were true, I could never forgive them both. Here are the investigation results. Thank you. I had braced myself and hired a detective agency, and the results were damning. I felt dizzy but managed to hold back tears, indeed. My husband and sister were having an affair. It wasn't a momentary lapse or whim. They had been meeting several times a week, changing locations, and planning their rendezvous. Thinking back, it made sense why my civil servant husband, who usually came home on time, was often late on days Sarah dropped off my niece. And why he strangely defended my sister's outings. Why hadn't I noticed they were often coming home at the same time? I received the report and was at a loss. Should I tell our parents? Confront them both? But my first thought was for my niece. You're cheating, aren't you? I confronted my husband suddenly, and he looked completely shocked. What are you talking about? Playing dumb? I don't know what you're misunderstanding, but don't say such things without basis. You're having an affair with my sister. What? With certainty in my voice, my husband's eyes darted around, probing how much I knew. He was surely thinking about how to escape this situation. Too bad. I already knew everything. Let's get a divorce. Huh? No, what are you suddenly talking about? I don't need you anymore. Someone like you is just trash. As I spat those words out, Kevin's face turned red with anger at being called trash. When I learned about the affair between my husband and my sister, my heart wasn't filled with sadness but a cold detachment. I just didn't care anymore. That was the depth of my feeling. A sister who would cheat with her brother-in-law while having a young daughter. And a husband who would engage in an affair with his wife's sister knowing everything. Both seemed just filthy to me. Normally, I would be entitled to receive compensation from both my husband and sister. But my sister has a child. I didn't want to make my dear niece feel miserable. That feeling grew stronger, and I decided not to demand any compensation from my sister. I wanted to leave her and her child a place they could rely on. So I kept this fact a secret from our parents as well. I planned to just get compensation from Kevin and end it all with the divorce. Let me think about it. It's all so sudden. Kevin bit his lip and exhaled as if trying to calm himself. All right. Let's talk more about it tomorrow. I agreed to his strained words. There was a lot to discuss, like the procedures. I thought giving him time was a mistake. The next day, he didn't return home even after his usual time. He's late. Perhaps he and my sister were plotting something. As I waited without contacting him, I heard a child crying in the distance. Curious, I went outside and was stunned by what I saw. Alyssa. Wrapped in a blanket, my niece stood in front of my house. Shocked, I looked around and saw my sister and Kevin hastily driving away in a car. I thought about chasing them, but I couldn't leave my crying niece behind. So I just watched their car disappear. How could they just leave a child behind? Alyssa can walk, what if she went somewhere? What if she got hit by a car? What if someone took her? Just thinking about it terrified me. Rage bubbled up inside me at the thought that they could do such a thing so easily. They're not human, they're monsters. I lifted Alyssa up and noticed several papers wrapped with the blanket. A divorce application signed by my husband and a letter from both of them. We're sorry. We love each other and had to be together. You take care of the child. That's what it said. A mix of frustration, anger, and various other emotions overwhelmed me. The tears I had been holding back now flowed freely. Unable to bear the huge change, I told my parents everything about the past and how Alyssa was left behind. My parents rushed over immediately. I showed them the evidence of the affair and explained while crying. My mother held me close, and my father trembled with anger. So, what are you going to do? I'm getting a divorce. That's right, do that. There would have to be discussions, including with Kevin's parents. My parents were prepared to cut ties with my sister. Even if she returned to our parents' home, they firmly said they would not help her. Alyssa is a dear granddaughter. We'll take her in. My father said this sadly as he looked at Alyssa sleeping peacefully. My mother seemed to be crying quietly. No. I'll take her in. I declared my resolution firmly. You don't need to do that. After what they did, you don't need to listen to their side at all. My mother seemed worried that I was being influenced by the letters, but that wasn't it. She's really dear to me. I'll adopt her as my own child. Realizing my determination, my parents, though troubled, respected my decision. They told me to consult them any time, which was a great comfort. The next day, when I inquired at my husband's workplace, I found out he had already resigned. I was certain they had truly disappeared. Checking the bank account, it was down to zero. I was impressed how efficiently everything was handled in just one day. However, there was only $10,000 in the account my husband could access. And only that amount was withdrawn. The rest of the money was safe in a different account. I had planned to discuss the division of property, but I was glad I had moved it to another account just in case. Quite a play by me. I also contacted Alyssa's biological father, my sister's ex-husband. But he expressed no interest in custody. It pained me to think about Alyssa, but I decided to give her all the love I could. After finalizing the divorce, I adopted my niece. We moved and started a new life together. Life was hard but fun. This child taught me the difficulties and joys of parenting. The days flew by, and I'll never forget the first time she called me mom. The world wasn't kind to us, but thinking of my daughter, I could face anything. As I juggled parenting and work, 10 years passed in the blink of an eye. On a day just after my daughter turned 14, I suddenly received a call on my smartphone. "Mom, there's a call for you." "All right." The screen only displayed a phone number. Wondering who it could be, I pressed the call button. And a familiar voice came from the other side. Big sis? Sarah? It's been a while." It was my sister. After 10 years, she spoke as if nothing had changed. Her carefree tone made it seem as if their disappearance had been just a dream. "Mom." Seeing me freeze during the call, my daughter looked worried. I snapped back to reality. It couldn't have been a dream. My daughter had grown up, after all. "It's okay," I told my daughter and turned back to the phone. "What? You really have the nerve to call like this?" I immediately exploded with anger. "What? Are you still mad? It's been 10 years. My sister was truly thoughtless. It's not something that can be forgiven no matter how many years pass." My sister laughed without any remorse, as if the years had changed nothing. It was chilling to see that they had no awareness of what they had done. "What do you want?" "Big sis, you've been taking care of my daughter, right?" Just knowing she was talking about my daughter made my shoulders tense. It was surprising to think that my sister cared about her child. "And what if I have? I'm thinking of taking her back." "What? She's grown up now, right? So I thought maybe I could take her with me." Does my sister even understand what she's saying? That's not something you can just decide on your own. Keep your voice down. How can I stay calm in this situation? When I said this, Sarah unilaterally ended the call with, "I'll come to pick her up soon, bye." After neglecting her for 10 years, now she suddenly wants to take her back? What does she think my daughter is? Those people are truly monsters. My hands trembled with anger. I explained the call from my sister to my parents. But I couldn't bring myself to tell my daughter. I had told my daughter that I wasn't her biological mother. But I hadn't yet explained that her real mother is my sister. My daughter was only 4 when she was abandoned. And her memories before I took her in are vague. The affair between my ex-husband and my sister. The fact that my sister abandoned her daughter and disappeared. It seemed impossible to explain without hurting my daughter. I had been putting it off until she was older, and now we were in this situation. "Can we talk for a moment?" I called my daughter. "Yeah. There's something I haven't told you yet." Just as I was about to start, the doorbell rang, indicating a visitor. I peeked through the monitor and froze. "Sarah. Big sis. You're there, right? How did she find out?" Sarah was standing in front of the house. Ding dong. Ding dong. "Big sis." I thought about ignoring her. But Sarah kept ringing the doorbell and shouting loudly in front of the house. "Mom. Are you okay?" My daughter looked worried. "Yes. I'll handle this. You stay back, and can you call Grandma and Grandpa?" Tell them she's here, they'll understand. Okay. Sensing the seriousness, my daughter nodded firmly and immediately called my mother. I closed the door leading to the living room and, with resolve, opened the front door. Ah, there you are. Stop it, you're causing a disturbance. You're too slow, hey you. It's been a while. Behind Sarah, my awkward-looking ex-husband was also there. I couldn't believe he came too. It had been 10 years since I last saw them. And both looked different. My ex-husband seemed a bit haggard. And Sarah, though trying to look young, appeared much older. It's troubling when you just show up like this. Go home. I came to take my daughter. She's here, isn't she? Stop. You're not coming in. Why not? She's my daughter. If you force your way in, I'll call the police. That would be trespassing. Huh? Frustrated by my firm refusal, Sarah raised her voice towards the house. Hey. You're there, right? Mom. Stop it. Why are you interfering? You think you're her real mom? Big sis, you're just a fake, after all. I was the one who bore her. Of course she'd want her real mom. After 10 years of neglect, and she claims to be a mother. I wanted to retort. But paused, considering my daughter might want to meet her biological mother. Seeing my hesitation, Sarah smirked and pushed past me into the house. Alyssa. Mom. Ah, you've grown up. I'm your real mom. My daughter looked frightened by the commotion. Did this woman tell you bad things about me? That's all lies. She took you from me and pretended to be your mom. I'm your real mom. Sarah looked at me with disdain, then smiled at my daughter. Realizing I was at a loss for words in front of her. Liar. Yes, that woman, my sister, is a liar. No. The liar is you. My daughter pointed directly at Sarah. Both Sarah and I were taken aback by her unexpected reaction. Do you know how old I am? 16? I'm almost 15. She has raised me until now. That's. You didn't tell me, but I remember some things about you. I was speechless at her revelation. Sarah had disappeared with my ex-husband when my daughter was 4. I had always thought she had no memories of that time. I remember you yelling at me and not giving me food. What? I did not do that. You're not my mother. I only have one mom. She may not be my birth mother, but she's the one who has truly loved and cared for me. My daughter gripped my sleeve tightly. I felt tears welling up, touched by her words. You. My sister bit her lip in frustration and raised her voice as she lifted her hand. I instinctively moved to shield my daughter, but then her movement abruptly stopped. Dad. You. My husband, who had returned at some point, had grabbed my sister's hand, twisting it up. He had been briefed on the situation. So he knew that it was my sister who was trying to strike. And the man looking bewildered was my ex-husband. He watched them both with a sharp gaze. Are you okay? Yes. Seeing my husband's calm eyes, my daughter and I could finally breathe a sigh of relief. You were married. My ex-husband, who hadn't even tried to stop Sarah's outburst, was shocked. That's none of your business. How dare you remarry without telling me? As if I had a choice, you left the divorce papers and disappeared, didn't you? My ex-husband was speechless, facing the stern looks from my husband and me. What? Big sis got remarried? Living in a big house with a husband? That's not right. After everything I took from you. Why does big sis look happy? Sarah screamed, her hair disheveled. Dad. These people did terrible things to Mom. My mom is only my mom. My usually quiet daughter passionately made her case. It's okay. You stay with Mom in the room. Your parents are here too, so we'll settle this. I must have been shaking without realizing it. My daughter and husband held my hands, and I noticed. My husband led Sarah and my ex-husband outside as they continued their irrational shouting. Mom, are you okay? I'm sorry. I haven't explained things properly. No, I didn't tell you either. I remembered some things about my birth mother. And thought you'd be disappointed if I told you. If I had been straightforward, I wouldn't have made you feel so insecure. I know you've been silent all this time because you care about me. Before we knew it, we were embracing each other, crying. Were we scared, relieved, happy? Emotions overwhelmed us. Sarah and my ex-husband were harshly criticized by my husband and parents for their unreasonable behavior. It seems they were adamant about taking my daughter back because they had a reason unique to them. My sister's ex-husband, a wealthy only son, had divorced Sarah and then fallen ill, recently passing away. It turned out that my niece, Alyssa, had a right to inherit from him. And Sarah and my ex were after that inheritance. They had been living a financially strained life since disappearing and were desperate for that money. In the end, my daughter chose to renounce any inheritance from a father she had never met. When we told them, both Sarah and my ex collapsed to their knees. My financially troubled sister begged our parents for help, but they sent her away, telling her never to show her face again, and she was left wailing. Though my daughter had to face these harsh realities in an undesirable way, she was trying to move forward, accepting them in her way. With my loving daughter and supportive husband, we might not be connected by blood, but I'm confident we are bound by a deeper bond than many families. My daughter's smile and my husband's kindness are the greatest proof of that. I'll continue to live my life to the fullest, loving my precious family. On a Sunday morning, as I prepared breakfast with my daughter, I once again savored our happiness.